Good morning. Today we're going to review one way that we've already seen to classify your data, and I'm going to show you one new way that we haven't seen before, and these should help with the homework 5 questions, at least the first few questions, the ones that are not from the textbook. Okay, so we're going to use our old friend Hart with our 303 observations of 15 variables, and as usual, I've got some other stuff going on here that you can ignore from my regular work. Okay, so the first solution to classifying your data, and we've already seen this one a few weeks ago, is to use the cut function, which is part of base R, so we don't need to call any special packages to use it. And so what we're doing in lines 4 and 5 is we're cutting the maximum heart rate achieved. Oh, so I should mention that the objective here is to classify maximum heart rate achieved into low, medium, and high categories. Okay, so we may have reasons for wanting to do that. If we want to do a chi-square test, for example, we need to classify it into a 2x2 or 2x3 table, something like that. So we want to classify maximum heart rate achieved into low, medium, and high. So the first way we can do that is use the cut function. So here we are cutting the variable maximum heart rate achieved, and we are establishing the breaks as from negative infinity, I could have put 0 to 129, and then from 130 to 169, and then from 170 to infinity. Okay, so this creates 3 categories, 0 through 129, 130 through 169, 170 and above. Okay, and those are the breaks, and then the labels we're going to call low, medium, and high. So if I run lines 4 and 5 and look at the result with the head function, okay, we see max HR, which is a new variable I created, contains values of medium, low, and high. And if we look for the corresponding maximum heart rate values, we see 150, 108, 129, medium, low, low. Okay, so that appears to have worked. And so now the second way, which some of you may find easier, some of you may find less so, it's totally up to you. As always, there are many ways to do just about everything in R. While the second way has a little more typing associated with it, I think it's in some cases easier to conceptualize and understand, but I'll leave that up to you. So what we're going to do for the second method, it requires dplyr package. So I run line 7 to call that library. So starting in line 9, we're going to mutate the heart data set, and I'm going to create a new variable called max heart rate 2, and we're going to use a new function called case_when. So in the case when, you can think of this as almost literal terms here. In the case when the maximum heart rate achieved is less than 130, we're going to call that low. In the case when the maximum heart rate achieved is greater than or equal to 130, but less than 170, we're going to call that medium. And in the case when maximum heart rate achieved is greater than or equal to 170, we're going to call that high. And notice the tilde that's used in this function. We're going to see that later in the class a few times. It's just another symbol that some of the R packages and functions like to make use of. Okay, so we're going to run lines 9 through 13, and we're going to look at the data with the head function, and we see max HR2 corresponds exactly to to max HR, medium, low, and high. Okay, so that worked. Now, if we do there's a function called str, which tells you the structure of the data. Str stands for structure, and you can it tells you what types all the variables are. And so we can see that max HR, the one that I created with cut, is a factor, and max HR2, the one I just created with mutate and case when, is a character. So the default variable types with each of these functions are different, so you have to be mindful of that. If you are getting something you don't want, you can just use, for example, I could put as character around lines 4 and 5 if I didn't want that to be a factor. Similarly, I could put as factor around lines 9 through 13 if I didn't want it to be a character. Okay, so the final thing I'm going to show you here is that we are not restricted to creating characters or factors. So in lines 15 through 19, I'm creating a version where I'm converting to an integer. So lines 15 through 19 are identical as lines 9 through 13, except instead of low, medium, and high, I'm just calling it 1, 2, and 3. So if I run that, and if we look again at the results, we now see that medium corresponds to a 2, low corresponds to a 1, and high corresponds to a 3. And this lends itself to things like chi-square test. Okay, and thank you for watching. That is the end of today's video. Hopefully this will help you think about how to do some of the homework problems.